End of the third moon you can plant. Snow is up to here. Would you believe that crap? No. But at the end of the third moon, February, March, April, May, you can start to what? Plant. You see how powerful that was? It's a very powerful thing. Very powerful thing. But it was too much power for one. It had to be taken away from you. So a device is to tell you there's something wrong with it. So we tell women when they have their period, it's God's what upon them. Now that's only a man could come up with that. When you have your period, you're cursed. Isn't that simple? How many women were terrified when they missed their period? You see what I'm talking about? Don't let people define for you what is reality and truth. Know what's true for you. Okay? Now what happens is there has to be a point at which the determination is made, and physical strength was used in Europe. And the men took over because they had the physical strength to maintain the what? And keep the what? Object. He simply said, get out. He told you to get out in February in North Central Europe. What would happen to you? You'd freeze to death and die. So from that point on, European women have to act how in the presence of their men? Submissive and subordinate. And every single one of their laws then becomes real for that. According to European law, European women are the what of their husbands? Property and chattel, which makes them philosophically a what? Yes. According to European law, the moment a European woman marries, her dowry becomes her husband's what? Why would her dowry be his property? Because if she acts simple, he could threaten to divorce her, and she would be what? Penniless. Now here's something else that came up. In order for them to control their women and to maintain discipline, they had the rule of thumb in English common law. And the rule of thumb says you have a right as a man to discipline your wife with what? A stick the size of your thumb. A stick the size of your thumb. So you give her a sound thrashing, but you don't damage the property. Now you see, I'm getting a whole lot of other sounds in here, like a stick. But you see, I told you all that's not your what? Axiology. All right, now we're going to deal with our own axiology. If the highest value lies in the relationship, people see themselves and each other to be what? All right, now how does that come about? Let's go back to the experience for food in Europe. If you are in equatorial Africa 12,000 years ago, and you went out and you gathered 7 large stalks of bananas, could you store them for 9 months, 9 weeks, 9 days? Because they'll what? Is it necessary to store food? Now women, can you get your own food in equatorial answer? Yes, you can. If your husband said, get out, could you weave palm leaves in such a way to keep the sun off of you? If there was a snake that came along, could you hit it with a stick and make it leave you alone? So according to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, black women in Africa can provide the first 3 essentials on the way to self-actualization: food, shelter, and safety. So therefore you see yourself to be what? That's right. Now that's how we survive slavery. Okay. That's how we survive slavery. When we came here in the Middle Passage, do you all know what that Middle Passage was like? Has anybody ever demonstrated that for you? I'm going to demonstrate that for you real quick because I want you to vividly see that. I'm going to finish and do this first, and then we'll do that last. On that Middle Passage, many millions of people died. Now don't let other people tell you that they're the only ones that have had a Holocaust. Okay? Many millions of black people died in the Middle Passage. They got on the boat and never got off. They fell into the sea and died. Okay? Or were pushed, jumped, or pushed. Okay? Or just thrown over to die. Now, the point is this. Once getting here, the conditions were so horrendous that the life expectancy plus the harshness of slavery for the black male was 9 years, and they died. Nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about that. So the fact that we are physically here says we come from excellent stock because we survived. All right? If I'm the slave owner and I observe you, you're beginning to deteriorate. Am I going to keep you on my plantation and let you deteriorate? I will fatten you, oil you, grease you, and what? Sell you. Because I don't want to lose my capital investment, the what? Yes, it's nothing personal. The black woman is then left with the infant. Can an infant or toddler produce work? But they eat, and they take the food out of the mouth of a slave that can produce work. Am I expected then to feed the infant or the toddler? No, think about that. Can it produce work? Can it produce work? Then why would I feed that little toddler running up and down here and take the food out of this man's mouth when he can produce work? You see what I'm talking about? Let's do that again now. Do I feed the toddler, the infant? I feed the slaves. And whose responsibility then is it to feed the child? The mother, because the black woman must always be able to take care of herself and her what? And her children. That's the African tradition. Because if anything happens to the man, you have to be able to take care of yourself and your children. And that was our victory in Africa. You see? Now let's go back through that and see what happens with that. Slavery is now over. Yeah? And let's look to see what did black women do. You have to, people don't talk about the slavery experience. We just kind of let it go by. But I want to talk about it for a little bit because I want you to realize what it is. People got up before dawn. People always talk about black people can't get up. Well, you got up before dawn, and you were in the fields when the dawn came, okay? And worked in the field until it was dark. Now, how can you get food? Because if you steal food, they'll dismember you, kill the child, or both. So the food that they got were literally weeds by their culture. Poke salad is a weed, but in the South it's food. So many of the greens that black people historically eat were traditionally what? Weeds by another culture. Do you see what I'm saying? If you come across an animal that has been slaughtered and you can get its ear, its nose, its tail, its foot, its hoof, its entrails, you've got food. Now, how are you going to clean chitlins at night? What they did was to take the chitlins, to slice them, that is to cut them down the middle so they're open, and soak them in potash all day while they were in the field. Then wash them in the stream and put them in a pot the next morning and boil them with a log all day. When they would come home, there'd be a thick layer of what floating on top? Grease. Skim the grease off, put it in the potash, boil it, and you've got what? Soap. Do you see what I'm saying? Those black women and black men knew how to survive in a very oppressive condition. Slavery is now over. As big as the black men are, they're put in steel mills and foundries. Black women have to see themselves as equal. They'll never earn as much money as the black male. Unless, and this is what black families did, black parents gave their daughters a good what to keep them equal with men. Yes. In Europe, whom do you educate? You have 5 sons, which one? The oldest. You see their culture? Theirs is different from what? I say to my son, Daddy loves you, you can stay here, but you got to what? But Daddy will work 2 jobs to send his baby to school. That's when times are hard. When times are good, we send them both to school. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's why you have more black women educated for degrees than men. But it's to keep us equal. Now, the confusion is white women want you to think that your problems are the same as theirs. Okay? Now let's look to see what happens. According to European law, European women are the property of their husband. If you see yourself as equal, you can be somebody's property. According to European law, your dowry becomes your husband's property when you marry. All right, here's this African woman. In West Africa, for you to get my daughter, you have to bring me what? Gifts. We give her gold bangles all the way up her arm. Now, do you think the sister takes all this gold off and gives it to this man when she gets married? Does that make sense? No, it don't make sense. It didn't make sense then, it don't make sense now. Okay? Now, what's the ramification of that today? Black women still keep their dowry. Now, how is that possible, Nichols? All right, we have a young black couple here. What is your name? Anomaly? Now, Maya. And your name? Sako. All right, Sako and Maya are married. All right, now we're looking, and she says to her husband, we have to have savings and money. So both names are on the savings book. One day he is helping to clean up, and another savings book falls out. Whose name is on that savings book? Yes. Because black women always keep their what? Their dowry. Why? Because if anything happens, the black woman must be able to take care of herself and her children. Do you see what I'm saying? Now let's go to this rule of thumb. Which one of the black men in here want to take a stick and beat a black woman? It doesn't make sense, does it? Because you could get seriously what? Yes. Okay. Now what that translates to is that black women are not intimidated by men. Because you see, if you can hit one, but you better not what? Go to sleep. Okay. See? Yes, indeed. We had a lot of people converted with hot grits. Okay. Now, what is happening is we are moving away from what is ours and acquiring what is theirs. And so what we're doing is we're raising little black girls to act like little white girls, and they become victimized. And they end up in shelters and all this kind of stuff. I see black women crying on television about, oh, he hit me. And I look at my 90-year-old mother who is 4'11" and weighs 92 pounds. I don't know any two men who want to tackle her. You understand what I'm saying? Because she was raised not to be intimidated by what? But we're now telling our little girls it's not ladylike to fight back. It's not ladylike. You don't want to raise a daughter to be a victim. We don't want to raise daughters to be victims. I have a daughter. My daughter was taking all this chemistry and physics at night and would walk across the campus. You know, in these labs, you have to stay there until the stuff cooks or whatever it does in the middle of the night, and you walk across campus. They were snatching girls and raping them on the campus and all this kind of stuff. I gave her something to take with her. And she said, oh, Daddy, I couldn't do that. I said, listen, I'm not raising a victim. I said, I don't want anybody to ever ask you, what did he look like? What did he look like? I want you to be able to say, roll him over and look for yourself. We love our women. We respect our women. We revere our women. Because we are equal and one. Thank you very much for inviting me to be with us.
Thank you, Dr. Nichols. Let's give one round of applause for a great presentation. Dr. Edwin Nichols. Thank you very much. Certainly, that's something we will not forget. Those of you who are about to walk out, stop, hold somebody's hand, affirm your Africanness. We will. That's why we don't, those who are walking out, please hold somebody's hand. Don't Don't do that. Brothers who going up the aisle, hold somebody's hand. Huh?
If I text anybody else, they get to her before I finish talking.
Okay, about 5 minutes.
Because
All right, but nobody can leave though.
all of her friends is on
All right,
Facebook.
nobody
Everybody
can
on
leave.
Facebook.
Close the doors. That's all right. Now close the door. 5 minutes.
What I want is I want a group of about, I want the black men that are right in this section right here. Just come right up here, about where the red shirt is. The guy with the red shirt, the C. The rest of you on that aisle, come right on up here on the stage, please. Hurry up. Just quickly come on up on the stage. All right. Why don't you come on this side over here, and all you guys right there, come on up here too. Come on up. Come on up. All right, there. Now just stand shoulder to shoulder right across there, okay? All right. Now, I am a slave master. I'm running a slave ship. As I run the slave ship, I make my money based on how many slaves arrive. Okay? A lot, yes. Now, what you can see is I have a situation here in which I have this number of slaves. And the very first one is here. You see where he is? See where he is? All right. Now, what I'm going to do is I make my money on the number. So I'm not making any money this way. What I want you to do is I want all of you to turn this way. All the slaves to turn this way. I want you to overcome your homophobia and move right on up. Go ahead. No, come on up. No, come on. We're going to pack you up. Oh. I'm sorry. Okay. All right, let's go. Come on. No, closer. Come on. There we are. All right, let's go. Now you see how many more I could get on this ship? Do you see what I'm saying? Now here's what I want you to understand. I am afraid of them, so I have shackled them by their what? Wrist and their what? Ankles and their what? Now you have iron rubbing on the neck with salt water. How do you think that feels? On the ankle, on the wrist. And they're all chained together in a long chain. So if I have to dump them over, I can just push them all over at one time. This man's got to go to the bathroom. Does he raise his head and say, would you please be so kind as to unchain me so that I can go and defecate or urinate? You're in serious trouble. This one has malaria and starts to have a seizure. This one has amoebic dysentery. Are you beginning to see what's happening? And of course, millions begin to simply what? Have to be pulled out and thrown overboard. Okay? So that by the time we get here, we have lost what? A lot of them. Okay, you go right on off. Now the rest of you have arrived. And now what we're going to do, turn around and face, this is the slave block. Because they didn't have any scientific information, they assumed that the biggest will be the most powerful. All right? I want them to breed other slaves. So how can I look and what can I determine to see if they're going to breed, if they're going to be able to breed? Size of their what? Yes. So I'm going to go into each one of their own and feel to see the what? Can you imagine how humiliating that must have been? If I'm buying a woman slave, then that she can nurture the child, she has to have a big what? And so that she can pass children through the birth canal, she has to have broad what? Thank you very much.
And thank you very much. Let's give Dr. Nichols one final round of applause.
Yeah, so he's good at that, but you know, you gotta find his way, you know. I've taken the meetings, done things, I'm there for him, told him things, you know how it is, they say.